Hello everyone and welcome back to another Minecraft episode. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're not jumping right back into a new game mode because I'm still working out a couple of projects that I'm wanting to work on and getting them coded and making sure that they're sitting right. But we have a very interesting theme that I wanted to talk about, and that is concerning the Wither boss. And you can kind of see that, or probably guess that that's what we're going to be talking about based off of what's down here in my inventory. So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about because the Wither is hailed as being one of the more difficult bosses within Minecraft. And I know that if you have certain tactics on how to fight him, he's not nearly as scary as he could be. So let's talk about that so you can have an easier time when taking on the Wither boss, whether it's your first time, your 30th time, or your 300th time. There are always things that are going to make this fight just a little bit easier. So first off, before you even jump into a Wither fight, you're going to want to make sure that you have yourself a decent weapon. And the best weapon that, in terms of swords, that's going to be useful when it comes to fighting a Wither is going to be a sword that has Smite 5. Now, what Smite does... Oh, I hear you. Smite deals an extra damage to undead enemies, and that was not planned because that zombie just kind of walked out of nowhere. But Smite will deal extra damage to enemies that have the undead classification to them. So that would be zombies, skeletons, wither skeletons, zombie pigmen, zombie villagers, drowned, and skeleton horses, although you really wouldn't want to kill them. But because wither skeletons fit into that category, the Wither also falls into the undead category. And a fun fact about the Wither, he actually will not target any of those opponents. He'll still target other things like spiders, chickens, other things like that, but he will not actively target any mobs that have that undead classification to them. So let's go ahead and talk about the first and probably most difficult of the options that we have when it comes to fighting a Wither. Now, I have set up an area down here below for the sake of getting our Wither fight underway. And let's go ahead and get this started. Now you see that we have two different branching paths here. We have this tunnel that goes down that way and this tunnel that goes down this way. And this one actually goes down to an area that you can kind of see or probably saw. I've actually got most of that fight set up, which is a matter of fact. Let's just get rid of the soul sand because I'd kind of forgotten that I had already done that. But if we make our way down to the end of this tunnel here, we will soon encounter the first area that I have set up and my first recommendation for taking on a Wither boss. So you'll see here that you'll want to kind of dig out a little bit of an area or a room. I actually might have the ceiling up a little bit too high, but we're soon going to find out. Now, when summoning in a Wither, it doesn't really matter how you spawn him in as long as you get this general formation. You can summon him in laying down, or at least the blocks in a laying down position, though he will spawn in the upright position there. And he's going to take a moment to kind of charge up and get ready to go. And then he will explode, prompting the fight to begin. And, well, that was where I had made some mistakes. Alright, so you'll notice that I've made a little bit of an adjustment to my strategy here. And we're going to need to first get the attention of this Wither as we get down here to the end. And hopefully he hasn't wrecked around too many things. Now he's still dashing around in this general area, which is good. So we will need to see if we can get his attention. He just barely moved his head out of the way. And alright, so now that we have the Wither's attention here, We're going to see if we can kind of lure him in. So this is working a little bit better. It's a little swampy. And this is largely attributed to the fact that I kind of messed up how high I should have dug that initial tunnel. But this is more of what it should be looking like, if we're being honest with what we're meant to do. So we're probably still going to die here just because of the way that the wither factor works. But we actually might be able to stave it off. Nope, we're going down. So despite the fact that we died a couple of times in that fight, it actually wasn't terrible. And as you can see, the wither, he just kind of rips things apart and could actually be interesting to use in terms of mining some things out or clearing out some areas. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. So let's get back in this area and keep moving down this way, because that's about as typical as a first fight against the wither would be, or as about as you would expect it to look. Now we're going to have a very different interaction here, and that's why Smite 5 is an awesome enchantment to have, is because that baby zombie went down in one single hit. But we've got to make our way back down this way, because we have another demonstration room set up, which should go a lot different, or at least a lot better, in my opinion. So I'm going to make a couple of adjustments to this room as well, because I think I've got the ceiling up way too high. All right, so here's the next area, or the next demonstration that we're going to do. And this is going to be quite a bit different of an encounter. So you'll notice this room's a little bit bigger, and that's because I have a very interesting contingency put together here for this follow-up fight. We'll wait for him to blast, and I was way too close to that. Ah, there we are. You see that the wither's health is starting to tick away, and that is because my good friends, the iron golems, have, well, located him, and they're starting to lay into him a little bit with their attacks. Now, iron golems, they don't like withers, and so assuming they can get to them, they will take them out. And they can also be affected by the wither effect, and so it looks like we lost two or both of our iron golems from this left holding cell. Initially, that was going to be a lot smoother. You see I had a bunch of redstone put together to kind of, you know, fancifully pull the walls back, but, well, that just didn't work out the way that I expected it to. But that's another way that you can take on the wither and have a little bit of an easier time with it. And iron golems do a substantial amount of damage and are very efficient in terms of taking on the wither. Oh, it looks like even the regular size zombies fall in one swipe to the Smite 5 sword. Get Smite 5 if you don't have it already. It'll make your overworld experiences that much easier. So those are both pretty standard encounters with what you're expecting to see and experience from the wither. But there is one other method that makes things leagues easier than what we've seen up to this point. And for that, we're going to need to hop inside this nether portal and take a venture to the end. And I know that nether portals don't bring you to the end, but I went ahead and previously carved out a tunnel that's going to take us down to the end, where we can give this final demonstration a little bit easier. Now, ideally, when you have an encounter with the wither, you want to do so in an element that you have a lot more control over. And the best way to have full control over your surroundings is to actually set up a wither fight area in the end. And I've already set up the ideal setup for that, the ideal area, and I'll explain it a little bit as we get it put together here. But you can see I've made it a little more decorative. You don't need to. Really, there's only one type of real rule that you need to follow. And that is with the setup we have here. I have the obsidian placed so you can know for certain where you need to place your soul sand, and you can go ahead and place that right on top of this. Now, the nice thing about end stone bricks and stone, just in its own natural state, is that it is blast resistant. So even if the wither were to get loose and start shooting those skulls all over the place, you would be completely and totally fine. Now, what you need to do when setting this up for yourself is you'll want to take this obsidian block and make sure that it is located directly underneath the center pillar of the end portal. And the best way to do that is once you have the bottom section dug out, is you'll want to count 2 in from any of these edges, and that will have you right in the center, and you can place your obsidian block there. Now, we're going to go ahead and get this wither set up and ready to go. We are then going to get very far away just to make absolutely sure that we are outside of the blast range of this wither, because we've already made that mistake once today. And you'll see that this wither, he's not only not able to go anywhere, but he's suffocating in the wall, and you can notice that his health is slowly draining. And then you can come in here and you can expedite the process by giving him a couple of good whacks with your smite sword. If you really want to speed this process along, you can also bring in a couple of those iron golems like we saw previously, and that will bring him down really very quickly. And that by far is the best method of taking down a wither. But what do you think? Is there anything that I've missed? But what do you think? Is there any options that I've missed? Any items that you think are better or that you found that work more in your favor? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe for more daily content as I bring videos to you every single day. They're generally a little more professionally done and with significantly less deaths than what I have done today. But if this is in any means interesting, feel free to stick around as I've got great plans for many different videos in the future. But thanks again for your time, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye.